So, in the Bible, it says a few things that are obviously of importance to talk about today. The word today, or the phrase today, is self-control. And I think it's really important to do this. Pay attention to where you start this conversation. Because we're going to talk about resentful Christians right now. We're going to talk about honest Christians. We're going to talk about what really changes people. We're going to talk about the Gospel of John, also from Titus. But man, a lot matters on this thing called life. A lot matters on where you start. Okay. So most of you are young, and let's say you have very little self-control. It's kind of normal. You have no impulse control because you're young. However, let's tell a little story, just briefly, all right? Let's go like this. Suppose once upon a time, there was a man who had a deep and wonderful encounter with God. Cool, right? And in the midst of this, he had this heart change, and all of the loves of his heart and all the things that he cared about, he realized that his heart was a tangled mess, and then God untied all the tangles and then helped his heart to love the right things. And then this man has a lot of self-control because of it, because his heart loves the right things in life, right? Now suppose the same man then goes and starts a church. That's cool, right? Founds a church, maybe right in the middle of the city, and hundreds of people come because it's so brilliant and so fascinating and so amazing, this guy's preaching and what he does and how he lives his life. All of that's so wonderful, right? But then what happens if 2,000 people at this church start thinking, oh, I want to be like him. And so then they start having self-control, but really what they're doing is they're holding themselves back, and then they just get angrier and angrier because they're starting with self-control rather than the man who started with having a moment with God that changed his life. Now, what does this all have to do with this conversation about self-control? Well, the first fruit of the Spirit, do you remember what it was? It's love. The last one today is self-control. Everything has to start with love. And if you start backwards and you think the Christian life begins with self-control and then it gets to love, then you're doing the fruit of the Spirit wrong. Now I'm going to say something that you've probably heard thousands of times. I'm going to say something that maybe glosses over you. It doesn't strike you anymore. But it goes like this. You are fully and legitimately the absolute beloved of God. There is absolutely nothing but infinite acceptance and love for you from the heart of God. And when you let that reality start to sink in, it starts to reorder the loves of your heart. And then you're going to find self-control is a little easier. But some of us go the wrong way. We start at the wrong end of the fruit of the Spirit. We try to think, if I just be self-controlled, if I just own everything, if I just do everything absolutely right, perfectly, then I'm going to finally earn that belovedness of God. But what can end up happening is when you start doing that, it's like an endless treadmill. And you can build in your anger, and then you get angry that you're angry, and then you can have resentment, and then you become a shell of a person. You become one of these people that go to church who look good on the outside, but they have had no experiences of actually being the beloved of Christ. Now in John's gospel, it's important to pay attention. There's a phrase that's used a few times, and it's the beloved disciple, or sometimes translations say the beloved, the disciple whom Jesus loved. And some scholars think that that's the Apostle John referencing himself. But some other scholars like to do this. Put your name in there. Every time you see that phrase, the beloved disciple or the one whom Jesus loved, put your own name in there. It's like a fill in the blank. John's gospel is about you realizing that you are the beloved of God, of whom God sees you as the apple of his eye. Because that's the best starting point. There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to show to anyone, not even to God, not even to yourself. Of course, we try to impress one another all the time. And some of us, especially in our teenage years and into adulthood, we think that's the game of life. Impress as many people as you can, and then you're going to earn love. But Titus 2 talks about it is the grace of God that teaches us self-control. It is grace that before we do anything right or wrong, you are already the beloved of God, which Colossians 1 says is already reconciled back to God. Don't give up on the church just because it might have some people that think that being self-controlled will earn them the beloved status of God. Yeah, there's a few of us in there, and that can be myself on some days as well. It might be you. But never forget that the gospel really does start with love, not with self-control. I don't know how else to word this. There is nothing left to prove or to show to anyone. And that's how we understand the grace of God. That God chooses to look at you in all of your totality, and all the ways that you don't have self-control. And yet God still says yes. So, this week, remember to start with the right end of the fruit of the Spirit. It always begins with love. And it ends with self-control. It doesn't go the other way. This whole Christian life doesn't start with self-control and then you end with love. That's not gospel. That's actually anti-gospel. Don't give up on yourself. God doesn't give up on you. This week, may you rest into the reality that you are the absolute beloved of God, even on the days when you don't feel like you earn it or believe it. Because whether or not you believe it or not, it's always going to be true. So may you, may you start in the right place, that you are the beloved of God. May love not only be your starting point, may it also be the anchor that you keep returning back to every single day of your life. Thank you so much. We'll catch you later. Grace and peace be with all of you.